Hello, I'm Nneka, and welcome to part 4 of my series on AI in education, what the research really says. I invite you to watch the first 3 parts of this video series where I discuss my research findings on how teachers are implementing or preparing to implement artificial intelligence. For part 4, I want to address how teachers stay up to date on artificial intelligence in education based on the conversations and the research I conducted in 2022 and 2023. Although the research is over 2 years old, some of the information still holds true to this day. So, it's not surprising that based on the interviews and survey results from teachers, that social media is a primary source of information regarding AI in education for teachers and other educators. In fact, teachers commented and shared that social media was actually an entry point to learning about artificial intelligence. And they either learned from a colleague sharing an article or some type of information appearing on their feed, whether it was from a friend, a colleague, a family member, or even an ad. It also is not surprising that information from districts or region education centers is the least likely source of information to stay up to date on artificial intelligence, with one exception, which I'll discuss later in this video. So when it comes to social media, there were not any limits on the types of social media. It are the popular forms in which we're mostly aware. Places like X, formerly known as Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, even other sites such as Pinterest, LinkedIn, and other sorts of gathering places on the social digital scale were popular places for educators to learn. When educators were introduced to artificial intelligence in education and had an interest in a topic or started to implement or plan to implement artificial intelligence, many of the teachers interviewed or who took the survey in the study did indicate that they progressed to joining groups or other types of affiliations. Of course, social media is not the only place in which educators stay up to date on artificial intelligence in education. Another area in which teachers received information were from organizations that were focused on educational technology or teacher practice or even educational leadership. These organizations, such as ISTE, were mainly EdTech focused. And so some of the teachers who were a part of these surveys were already introduced to or used educational technology as a part of their classroom experiences. And so learning about and implementing artificial intelligence was a natural extension of their learning process. And since many of these organizations do send out regular newsletter, that became the way to stay up to date. So in one way, your introduction is through a social media, through a friend, colleague, family member, and then transitioning to whether it's a social media group, open or closed, or some type of organization. Those were 2 sources. Another social media or digital source were newsletters. Again, whether it came from an organization or even an influencer. So influencers were not the primary sources as discussed, but once teachers started to explore, they connected with educators and educator influencers in the space who were providing updates and ways to use tools and all of the latest and greatest how-tos and learn about this. It was interesting to educators, and they felt like this is a way for me to stay informed. And again, not so much to benefit themselves, but to help their students ultimately. And finally, when we do talk about districts, interestingly, once districts begin artificial intelligence initiatives and they built up information through their websites, then teachers started to rely more on those districts but still kind of relied on social media even more. So what that finding tells us is that as more districts do implement artificial intelligence initiatives and have robust information available through their websites, including trainings and other sources of information, that teachers and other educators that serve in those districts will rely on their sources in order to best serve their students. This is an exciting finding, I feel, because as we are getting deeper and more time has passed since the initial release of the generative AI platform, ChatGPT. Sometimes I mess that up. Do you too? But as ChatGPT was released and generative AI kind of brought AI to the mainstream, I think it's important to understand how teachers are getting their information, because if you're in a district and you're like, where are my teachers now? Not only can you just tell them, but the research is showing right now, if you're not implementing something, they're learning from social media. If they're not learning from social media, they're learning from a type of trade organization that they're a part of. If they're not learning from a trade organization, it may be a social media influencer. And ultimately, if there isn't an initiative at all, and they're really focused on supporting kids based on where the district has aligned their district goals and objectives and campus goals and objectives, those teachers are most likely not looking at artificial intelligence at all. And so districts will need to take that into consideration as well. I want to thank you for taking the time to watch this video, and I look forward to sharing part 5 with you soon. Take care.